This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. I am part of the marketing team at Pro Exteriors. If you are a longtime listener, this is typically where I would say, and joined as always, today I have with me owner and president of Pro Exteriors, Aaron Rogers. Aaron, how are you doing? We don't have Aaron with us today. Today is a special day. Today I am joined by Brad Wazlavek. Brad, how are you?
Morning. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am doing pretty well. I tell you what, today is October 2nd. It's the first time in about a week where I can actually look out my window, which is here just in front of me, and I see this giant yellow blazing ball of fire in the sky. It's kind of nice. So I'm located in Northern Kentucky. Brad, what's it like there in Southern Delaware?
It's kind of overcast. It's not a bad day though. Like it's
right.
Probably like 65-ish, but a little overcast.
It finally feels like fall here. It was like 55 when I got up and took the pups out this morning. I kind of like it.
It's absolutely my favorite time of year. I'm not a big fan of sweating all day.
Yeah. Yep. Me too.
It feels better. It's crisp. I love this fall air.
Yeah. Well, audience, Brad is one of our exterior specialists focusing on sales, and I brought him on today for a very specific reason. But before I get to that reason, I want to share with you what the purpose of this show is, in case this is your first time tuning in. The purpose is right there in the title. You Ask, the Pros Answer. Week after week, we take a question that we've received from somebody just like you, from one of our customers, and we do our best to have an honest and unbiased conversation in hopes that we all leave knowing a little bit more about the exterior contracting space than when we started. With that said, Brad, today's question, the reason that I invited you on today is I want to ask you, what in the world is Company Cam? What's the deal with you and the other guys walking around my house with your smartphone just snapping pictures away? All right, so I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to ask you, just if you could give me a brief overview of what Company Cam is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Company Cam, essentially, it's an app, computer program. We can use it both on a laptop and on the phone. But it catalogs all our photos and puts them in each individual file for that customer. One of my favorite aspects of it is I can take a photo and then immediately mark it. So if I see something odd on a roof, for instance, I can literally mark, oh, hey, this should be this way, but it is this way. And it saves it having to remember it later, and it saves in a lot of errors. Biggest thing for me is being able to mark those photos. So what I like to do is if I have to hand measure a roof, I'll take a picture of say the edges of the roof, as many as I can get in one photo, and then literally put the dimensions on that photo. And what I've been doing over the years is I try to, again, if I'm hand measuring a roof, I'll get up there and take all the measurements in a block, so to speak. So that when I'm going back, sitting down and hand drawing it out and getting all my measurements, they're all kind of like right in a row. It just makes it super easy for me. I don't have to lug around a clipboard and paper when I do that. And then more so to bring it to the kitchen table with the customers, no one really is going to get on their roof. I mean, if people get up there once in their lifetime, it's kind of a shocking thing to talk about. So the chances are no one's ever going to get up on their own roof. What I can do is I can bring the roof to their kitchen table and show them what I see, and so that they're more engaged, they're more knowledgeable. It's not just some guy telling them some things; they can actually see it for themselves. And the thing I like to think about is the old adage of pictures worth 1,000 words. So if I didn't have these photos to show them, they would just have to take my word for it. But me telling them this is what I saw, can you see that? They can see it for themselves. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a huge trust builder between you and the customer.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, people know kind of about what their roof looks like, so they know it's their roof. It's not, there's no,
right.
You know what I mean? It's not like I have this database on my phone, like, oh, hey, let me show you some pictures, and they're all different colors. And, it's literally, they can tell it's their roof. A lot of times what I'll try and do is, you have a pool or you have like a shed or something. I'll try and get that in the background because, again, it just kind of builds trust. Hey, I am on your house. This is definitely what I saw on your house.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all time stamped, and so they're able to see this was taken today, or whatever. I would imagine one of the benefits is I know when I was in the office with you guys would have multiple calls within a day. Sometimes you're driving an hour plus to a house, which means you then have an hour drive back. Within that hour drive, you could field a couple of phone calls. Uh, your mind could be a million different places. So when you get back to sit down at your desk to work on an estimate for somebody, I imagine it's very difficult to recall everything that you experienced when you were inspecting somebody's house. So I can't imagine how beneficial it is for you to pull up Company Cam then on your laptop and be like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what I saw at
Huge
this
benefit.
address."
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lifesaver a lot of times. And what I've been doing lately, last year or so, is I at the end of like my inspection, so to speak, if I've talked to the homeowner ahead of time and they have very specific things they want to do, whether it's roof, siding, window, whatever, I will literally just pull up a random photo. Sometimes I even like take a picture of my feet, just
Mm.
so I have something to comment on, and I'll just voice text what they want to do. So if they want specific things, hey, I want black flashing around my chimney, like it's a specific thing. Hey, I want to make sure that my gutter doesn't overflow into my driveway anymore. Can we do something about that? Because those are sort of oddities, outside the box things. And I will forget that. Like you said, if I'm driving an hour and a half to the next appointment, even if I just take a lunch break and my mind's off of it, I can take a couple phone calls. It's going to get.
Happy birthday, Brad!
It's my birthday, so I'm getting a cupcake now.
Listeners, viewers, today is Brad Wazlavek's birthday. Today is October 2nd. I knew this was going to happen. Yep. There it is. Happy birthday, Brad.
I'm 1 year old today.
1 year old. Are we singing to him? I guess they can't hear me, can they?
No.
No.
Maybe we don't sing. That's
What
probably
are they playing? Are they playing
some
some kind of copyrighted music that's
some
going to
kind
get
of
flagged?
techno or something? Are you playing some kind of copyrighted music?
I am.
Yeah, it's copyrighted, so have fun editing that.
All right.
Oh, it's you know what? It's happy birthday. It's the birthday song. It's just somebody made a techno version of it. It's fine.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna blow this out before I get wax everywhere. Oh, it's sparking now.
Good luck getting that out.
I blew right out. I think it was getting ready to start one of those.
Oh, I thought we
Oh,
had,
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
yeah.
See, you don't know that I'm fearless. So
Oh!
there we go. It's out now. Now I got smoke trails everywhere.
A chocolate one. We have chocolate.
Audience, this episode is coming out October 11th, so we're like a week after Brad's birthday. I don't care. In the
That's all good.
comments, would you tag Brad and wish him happy birthday? If you're watching this in 2045, wish him happy birthday.
Oh, God willing, I'm still here.
Yeah. I knew that was going to happen. I'm glad they popped in. This will be a good opportunity. I'm going to throw it to a quick message from our sponsor, today's sponsor, and then we'll be right back. We'll regroup, maybe let Brad take a bite of his cupcake. All right, we'll be right back. And now a word from our sponsor.
Fall into savings with Pro Exteriors. Get ready to bundle up your home for the cooler months ahead. From September 1st to November 30th, enjoy free gutter guards with every qualifying roof or siding project. That's right, say goodbye to clogged gutters and hello to hassle-free fall and winter. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Call or click today at 302-664-1700 or askproexteriors.com to schedule your free estimate. Pro Exteriors, home of the pro difference. Fall into savings with Pro Exteriors. Promotion valid September 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2024. Terms and conditions apply. Contact us for details.
Let's get back to the show. All right, we are back. Brad, before we were interrupted by your birthday cupcake and candle, you were just talking about just how indispensable Company Cam really has become. It's become, to make a really cheesy, corny joke, it's become one of the biggest tools in your tool belt that you utilize day after day.
Definitely. Yep. It's probably the only one I use every single day without fail.
Yeah.
There's certain tools I don't need on every project, but that one absolutely gets used every day.
So what if, oftentimes Aaron and I will kind of role play where I'm the homeowner, he's the professional. I want to do the same kind of thing, but just walk through from me calling in to our office, talking with Tabby or anybody else that's answering the phone, all the way through to job completion, and just hear from you about how Company Cam plays its part in helping facilitate that. So let's say last Friday, for instance, the hurricane did make its way through northern Kentucky. I'm really grateful that it wasn't nearly as severe as what it was for those that are dealing with it in North Carolina and Tennessee. We were without power though for about 11 hours here. It rained hard. It was windy. Trees came down. Let's say I had some shingles come off, some siding come off, and my house was already about 20 years old. So it was time for me to be looking into a new roof, new siding anyhow. So I call in, Tabby answers the phone. She takes down my information and what it is I just described to you. You get assigned my project. What is the first thing that you're going to be doing with regards to Company Cam specifically?
So typically when I show up is the first interaction with Company Cam. So job progress is our database. It's Leap now. They bought it out about a year or so ago, but we all still call it JP just because it's easier. But they create within, when we set up the name, address, phone number, we set up the customer record, it creates a Company Cam file. So when I show up on site, it's all GPS coordinated. So when I pull up the app for Company Cam, I don't have to go searching for your address, which is it's a huge time saver, honestly, is what it is. So you pull it up, it'll show me a blank file. So there's no pictures at all, which is really super easy visually to see. Click on your file, make sure obviously it's you, because there are some communities around here kind of stacked, houses are stacked on top of each other. So you got to make sure it is the right one. The first thing I do is I get out and I take a photo of the house. And it seems, I don't know, I don't want to say useless, but it seems a little bit like unnecessary sometimes. The reason we do that though is there are a lot of cookie cutter communities. So if you do show up and you're at the wrong house, you want to make sure that gets corrected and you take a picture of the right house. So I've never actually done work or done an inspection on the wrong house, but I have showed up to the wrong house and they said, "Oh, no, you want next door." It does happen sometimes. So photo of the house. Another thing I use that for is I have software that's going to make a proposal for them later. And it's a really nice cover picture. So I've honestly never had anybody where I show them, they're like, "Oh, that's a pretty picture of my house." They always say that. It's just a nice little personal touch. But Company Cam does the GPS. It locks right into your house. Make sure that we're taking the right photos of the right people's house. I'm saying house a million times, but and then I go take a picture of the address again to make sure I'm at the right place. So that's the start of it. What it does is it holds all those in your file, so we know it's your pictures and not your neighbor's, not somebody else with the same name, whatever it is. Because again, GPS plays into it. And then when we go and we talk about what you're looking to do, if it's a roof inspection, for instance, I will then get into the attic and I will take photos from inside the attic. And we said it earlier, but one of the biggest things for me is being able to mark the photos. So when I'm in a dark attic and I have a flashlight, and viewers may not know, but I have one hand. I don't know if you can see it. So people have met me. There we go. Camera's hold backwards. So it's nice for me not to have to lug a bunch of stuff. So if I can have a phone that's in my back pocket, a tape measure on my hip, and we wear cargo pants. So I have little handheld tools in my cargo pockets that I can use one at a time. Makes it super simple not to have to sketch everything out. So I do that. Get in the attic space and take a photo of the plywood, what type, because there's two types of plywood used on houses. And then the spacing of the rafters, the trusses, whatever, the condition. And then the most obvious thing is looking for bad plywood. So all that gets logged in Company Cam. Typically when we have, let's say a normal project, like just a regular roof replacement, we're going to end up having my photos, pre-production, during production, and post-production, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 photos. So there's a lot going on there. Once I'm done in the attic, I get up on the roof. And one of the first things I do, I put the ladder on the eave usually, and we do what's called a lift and look. So we're gonna check to see if there's ice and water shield, if there's gutters in the way, the condition of everything at the eave, and then I get up all the way to the ridge, and I do like a little 360. Couple reasons for that. Number one, obviously, I want to kind of see the dimensions of the house and how steep it is, and the normal stuff, but also to timestamp where I was and that I didn't create the damage, so to speak. All the photos are going to be time and date stamped. So if I have a photo of damage and I don't have one ahead of time showing that, I didn't touch it yet, I was nowhere near it yet, that helps.
Yeah.
So it's just a kind of a catch-all. And it seems a little silly to have to like check yourself and, have all the checks and balances of our job, but it does come into play sometimes, if we're dealing with a third party, like an insurance company, you want to be able to prove that you didn't cause that damage. And it speeds things up. It's really what it is. And then we think, so I'm done there. I go down, I sit in the living room. I think we mentioned earlier, I can kind of bring the roof with me, which is a nice thing. So the homeowners get to see everything that I saw. Typically don't show them the, 80, 90, 100 photos that I took. Obviously that would be forever. But I'll pick, half dozen or so, and I'll show them the important things, the things that I think are concerning, not the general area shots.
Sure.
It kind of helps them understand. And it's more than just some guy they call that they barely know saying, this is a problem. I could say, this is what I saw. What do you think of this? And I've always found that people, when they come to their own conclusions, it's more powerful because they're literally seeing it for themselves and making up their own mind.
Yeah.
So it's a hugely powerful tool for that reason. And then when I put the proposal together, I can put, 4, 5, 6 photos in the proposal so that I can point out certain things. One of the more common things that people have, for whatever reason, I'm guilty of it too. People switch between cable and like a dish and then like the other dish network, it's like, so there's always like dead satellite dishes on the roof. And I would say probably 9 times out of 10, people are like, oh, I haven't had them in years. You're going to get rid of that? And we can, as simple as that sounds, we can say, yes, right here in the contract, I'll say, we'll get rid of it. We don't charge. We'll just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little thing for them. Anyway, I put all that together so they can still see that. And what I found, just technology wise, because I know this is going to, when we're done talking about company cam, we're going to kind of spread into the other apps and tech that we use. What we find recently, what I've found recently, is that certain companies are still using handwritten, the triplicate, carbonless copies. Like, we've taken the next step. And I think as a society on the whole, we are used to having more tech in our lives. So us taking that step, even as a roofing company, like people wouldn't expect it. And to have that is like, wow, you're really advanced. So it's kind of a nice little touch because people are so used to having apps on their phones, and seeing something that's like professionally done, it makes a huge difference. Not that I don't want to give away any secrets to our competitors or anything, but I have seen where I don't want to say won the project because of that, but it certainly helped.
You've earned it.
You earn it through other means, but it's certainly I call them quarter percenters. So like, you have to build someone's trust, and that's something that you're only going to get a 0.25% trust, but if you put enough of those together, they add up.
Sure.
So it's something where it's really going to help to build the trust in the company and build the confidence overall of who we are, because we're not just some fly by night. If I look at it as our owner, Aaron, if he takes the time to invest in a subscription to these services, that shows that he's obviously very invested in his company and his people. So
yeah. All right. So what you've sat down with the homeowners, you come back and you put together a quote or an estimate for them. How does Company Cam play into that process?
Well, a couple of things. I can put the photos in the quote. So that's a big one. And I can, in our other software we use to quote, I can do different marks. So let's say there's things that I want to mark in Company Cam that the homeowner doesn't need to see because they're like super technical. I can put, common sense, very easy to understand jargon that the homeowner can see separately of that. But as far as Company Cam goes, I can put, I try to stick to, because I can usually put 4 on a page. So I try to stick to multiples of 4.
Okay.
Not a ton. Sometimes you need 4 or 5 pages of photos because it's a very specific project, but most of the time, 4, 8, just find things that they want to know. And I find that when I'm reviewing that with them, when I'm proposing what we're going to do on the project, to be able to stop, look at those photos, enlarge them, and say, do you see what I saw here? I know we talked about it earlier, but you remember, you're just kind of reiterating that. And again, it helps them to understand this isn't just stripping your roof off and putting new shingles on. Like, there are legit issues here that we need to fix while we're doing that. And a lot of times people don't realize you're not just, my roof's 20, 22 years old, it needs to be replaced. Like, because it's that age, there's issues that you didn't know about. So I can show those again. And again, just building trust is really what it comes down to. And then when I'm done that, let's say, everything goes well and they say, yeah, we're going to go with you. Let's get this done. what I'll do is I'll come back to the office and put all my paperwork together to turn in. And what I do is I build a company cam report. So what that is more for production. So I'll say, hey, park this side of the driveway, put the dumpster here. Like, it's things that the homeowner doesn't necessarily need to know, but absolutely our production people need to know. Look out for bushes. If they have really gorgeous landscaping, like, I will literally highlight that like crazy and say, hey, just be careful of this, drive around here, don't walk here, things like that. Septic systems, that's a big one. We want to make sure we know where the septic system is if it's not obvious, because you don't want to like park a vehicle there. You don't want to put too much weight on it, essentially. But just little things like that tend to help. And again, kind of brings my ideas, my headspace to the production side. So it just keeps things flowing, keeps everybody on the same page. The guys that are on the job, one thing we didn't talk about, which is a huge benefit of Company Cam, is I don't have to be there to get what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. So like what I see, and this from my standpoint, when I'm doing my inspection, if I see something I don't know something about, I know that Aaron will back at the office. So I can take a photo of that and say, hey, I don't know what's going on here. This is new to me, or here's my thoughts on this. He can look right at those photos. And usually I'll start to try and give him the description, because I'm very long-winded. You can probably figure that out if you're still listening. But what I'll do is I'll tell him, hey, this is going on. And he'll be like, stop. What's the homeowner's name? he'll pull it up. And then while I'm talking, he's flipping through the photos. It's a huge benefit. So when I see something I've never seen before, something that's out of the ordinary, he can literally tell me, oh, because he's got 20 plus years of experience. He's going to know way more than I do just naturally. And our production guys can do the same thing. I'm looking with shingles on the roof. They strip it off and they see something like, hey, you didn't see this because it was literally covered up. What are we doing here? And rather than me saying, I'm an hour away, I can be there as soon as possible, no, I literally can just pull it up on my phone and look. So it makes it so much simpler and much more efficient. And they don't have to problem solve as much, which is kind of nice, because I can tell them, yeah, this is what should be done. I know what I'm doing there. Yeah, you're fine. And they like that, and it's also kind of checks and balances on them, because they don't have to put all the onus on them. I know what should be done here, but are you on the same agreement? It does help with that as well.
Yeah. So I want to get back to, you've done the proposal. As the customer, I've said, yes, let's go ahead and do it. Then before we even get to doing the actual install, you pass things off to production, and a lot of stuff has to be done behind the scenes before our crews show up at the job site. Does Company Cam, I know you're not as involved in this side, but from your understanding, is Company Cam play a part in ordering of materials, or making sure, especially like windows and doors, the dimensions are hugely important? How does Company Cam aid in the production or pre-production side of things?
Well, definitely the Company Cam report is a big deal. So within Company Cam, you have different tabs. I pretty much live in the photos section, but then there is a reports tab where I can make a report. Aaron can make a report if he wants to change order items, things like that. But in our Company Cam report, we'll actually put what we call a takeoff. So it's our materials list. We'll put that right in there, so that the production guys know when they're on site, they're going to have that. And they're going to say, okay, I need X amount of drip edge, X amount of shingles, and they can literally check it to what was delivered. So that's a huge benefit. It's not necessarily specific to Company Cam. I mean, you could do that in any documents, but having it all in one location is a huge boon. And just being able to literally pull up one tab and kind of flip, or one app rather, and flip through the tabs and have it all centralized is a huge time saver. And I just know that's for like Josh, for instance, when he's a site super. Mm-hmm. And for viewers, I'm going to take over Cole's here. For viewers, you've met Josh before. He did what is it, 2 guys in a truck or something? They were driving North Carolina or something like that. Yep. So when he's there, he can literally pull that up and say, hey, I see that we had this, but it doesn't look like it's on the truck, because human error happens. He can catch it right away. Or one of the more common things, which I've noticed lately, is our roofing crew, they are so fast at stripping a roof. A lot of times the roof is stripped before the materials even show up, because they're just so efficient. They want to get it, especially imagine August, July. They don't want to be up there any longer than they have to be. So they strip a roof down to bare plywood, and then they call Josh like, hey, I need 3 pieces of plywood. Well, they haven't seen the materials show up. We knew that. So recently I had to drive out, bring them a couple pieces of plywood. And by the time I got there, the materials showed up like, oh, we don't need them anymore, because they were on the truck. And the whole time I'm driving, I'm thinking, I could have swore I put those on the material list. So they were just so fast. So yeah, things happen, but it was a comical thing. And we had a joke about it. And then I had to go pick up those same 3 pieces that we didn't need anymore and take them back. So super fun. But again, it's a good story to have. That's why I tell it. But Josh was able to look at all that, which is nice. So
yeah, and then so my interaction with Company Cam, obviously, I have a different reason to jump in the Company Cam than you do. But one of the things I've observed is it's like a seamless handoff. If you're like thinking of it as like a relay race between you and then Aaron, who's ordering materials, and then Josh, who's our site superintendent or project manager, and then our roofing crews or siding crews, or any of our technicians like Mike or Kevin, who's on the job. All of us have access to Company Cam, right? And then all of us are feeding that database with photos, and they're all time stamped and name stamped. So you can go in and say, or see, oh, Mike is here to do this repair. It seems like it helps create this spirit of teamwork that otherwise would have to be created in some other more clunky way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having it centralized is a big thing for me. It speeds things up so much.
I've even, if I was in the office trying to figure out where one of you guys were, I'll hop on Company Cam and filter it by like most recent photos. I'm like, oh, well, Brad's here at this job because he just took a picture 30 seconds ago. And it's very easy to see where maybe you guys are. All right. So in this little role play game that we're doing, I've said yes to the job. It's gone into like the pre-production where materials are being ordered. The day of the job comes and the job is progressing, whether it's roofing, siding, windows, doors, deck, whatever it might be. How is Company Cam playing into the actual job progress that's taking place?
Well, it's something where we can add photos as we go. So we know that I don't want to go negative with it, but let's say there's a homeowner that's not there and they're questioning whether or not we were there. That's sure. A big one. And that's not necessarily negative. Like people want to make sure their investments are protected. I get that. And a lot of our roofing jobs were in and out in a day or two. But if it's not a roofing job, for instance, we've done several projects. One very recently that we're finishing up. We added a porch. We did a full roof, full siding, added a window. When I say added a porch, we essentially added a small house on the front of their house. It is a huge porch. It's gorgeous. So it took quite a while. And they're not obviously going to take off work for a month or two to watch the whole thing. So we can show them progress. And if someone ever questions, hey, your guys weren't here today, be like, no, it actually rained. They were there for an hour and a half, and then the rain started. So we pulled them off and sent them back to work in the shop where it was, obviously not in the weather. Yeah. Oh, it's not raining now. But like, I understand that, but it was raining. And we have like photos of the water. It's a lot easier to kind of quell any kind of suspicions, which is nice. But with Company Cam in particular, the guys, when they show up, take a photo. It's one of the first things they do. So we know when they showed up. It's kind of like a time clock. And then when they leave, they do the same thing. So again, it squashes any, hey, they didn't take their materials with them. Well, they're going to come back tomorrow. And here's a photo of the material so we know what it was. Yeah. And again, I don't mean to go negative, but there are some areas, we all live in different areas. We know maybe sometimes your materials aren't exactly safe. People, I mean, you go online and type in porch pirates, people see your Amazon. So you can imagine if there's like lumber and whatnot laying around, you have that issue. So we want to make sure we take photos of that to make sure that our stuff is protected, that the homeowner's stuff is protected. And we do all that, and accidents do happen. So if we damage something, we take a photo of it and we can immediately say, okay, this got damaged by us. And we know what it is, if it's a piece of siding, if it's a window trim, whatever. And he can literally, whoever it is, can take that photo and send it to someone at the office and say, hey, I just damaged this. It was a mistake. I got it, but I need somebody to bring this to me. Yeah. Huge help. Then just saying, hey, I need a piece of trim. And you're like, okay, what size, what length, what color? You have a photo of it. It's all answered already. So that's a huge benefit for me. I definitely like being able to see what everything's going on. If I'm say done for the day, like you said, I can tell where people are. I can pull up the feed, which is usually the top line on the app. Mm-hmm. I'll pull up the feed and see where everybody's at. I'm like, oh, hey, that's my project. And I'm 20 minutes away. I can go drive and see what they're doing. I know they're still there. So I'm not guessing. I don't pull up and it's an empty house. Yep. So I can go take a look. And before I crashed 3 drones, I would pull out the drone and take some nice photos of them. So I'm not proud of that. I'm laughing. It's gallows humor. I get it, but I'm not a great drone pilot. But I would take drone photos and some nice marketing stuff for you on the back end that, other companies I've worked at in the past, it was always a struggle to get the back end folks, the marketing people, the ones that want the really nice before and afters. It was a struggle to get those photos because there wasn't something like Company Cam in place. And what happens is you get a guy with his cell phone and he has to download all those photos onto something else. It's a huge time suck. So having it immediate and it uploads immediately, if you want one, you're like, hey, you know what? We kind of got an hour of downtime. Let's make a quick Facebook post. You or Kara or someone wants to do that. You can literally just pull up the feed and be like, oh, that's actually a really good photo. Boom, and it's done. You don't have to say, hey, anybody got any photos for me? Can I have your SD card? It's not old school, which is nice. That's why I like it. And again, I could talk for hours on this. I could talk about anything for hours. I think that's pretty obvious, but it's almost like I'm a salesman. I like to talk.
So I want to back up just a little bit to Company Cam is all about transparency, trust building. We are in the business of covering things up. Like that's a large part of what we do. And so one of the things that I've enjoyed about Company Cam is if I can't be on site, especially now that I live 600 miles away, yes, it's great to see the after when everything's done. But if I want to get an example of something mid-project, or I want to see what that OSB or plywood looked like before it was replaced, Company Cam, it's like this time-lapse video in a series of pictures where you get to see things from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And as the homeowner, if I want to see, was that plywood really rotted? It's like, oh yeah, I can go and I can look at it and be like, goodness, I didn't realize that was being covered up by my old siding. And it creates transparency, accountability for our crews. It then also, it builds trust because you as the salesperson can show them, hey, I wasn't blowing smoke when I showed you or told you that this needed to be done. Here's the evidence of it. Which just makes for a better customer experience overall, I think.
Oh, absolutely. On that note too, so I talk a lot about roofing, obviously, because it's a big part of what we do, but with a lot of roofs, you can get into the attic if you want to and look up and you can see the backside of the plywood. You can't do that with siding. So you're absolutely right. When it comes to siding, a lot of times, and we're talking like newish houses, like maybe it's 15 to 20 years old. So it's not like 100-year-old house is what I'm getting at. Where someone will have, a big well-known builder build their house and maybe their siding's faded, maybe it's cracked, maybe they just want a different color, whatever reason we're there. We'll pull it off and you can see pretty much all the time when you do a siding job, if there is plywood damage, it's under windows. One of the biggest corners that they cut when they're building house after house after house is window wrap. And if you're replacing plywood, again, on a roof, I can get in the attic and see it. You can literally, if you have the inkling to get into your roof, you can tell where the new plywood is from underneath. So having those photos is great, but I can also, as a homeowner, go in there and see it. Siding, I can't do that. So taking photos of that, and then when I see the invoice and say, yeah, we used 3 extra pieces of plywood, and here are the photo evidence, it kind of helps get over the hump, so to speak. And most people don't fight it, but the fact is they don't have to question whether or not we actually used it. It's literally photographic evidence. And I'm not kidding. It's almost always under the window. The window trim collects water, drips down the side, and then rots the plywood out. You don't even notice it because there's drywall and everything else on the other side. So being able to show them, that's a huge help. And then again, Company Cam documents all that.
Yeah, and your inspections are super thorough, but unless you're going to every window in the house, pulling off the siding, pulling off the house wrap, you're not going to uncover that until the job's being done.
Yeah.
Right. So
there's some things that just aren't feasible. I mean, I'm there maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours max. I'm not stripping the house. I'm also by myself. Whereas we send a whole crew, they can do a lot more.
And as a homeowner, I wouldn't want you pulling everything off my house in the event that there's not a problem.
Exactly.
Okay. So the job, let's pretend like the job is done and, you're kind of wrapping everything up. Let's say it is a roofing or a siding job. There's obviously nails. There's different materials that need to be cleaned up. How does Company Cam aid us in the process as we wrap things up? And then as we want to maybe show before and after images.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I like is it does literally has a before and after feature. So on that note, what I try and do is, and this is all credit to you because I am not the world's best photographer by any means. But a little while ago, you showed us how to put the grids on our
Mm.
camera so we can kind of line a photo up really clean. So that's one of the things I like about it is I can take a really nice. Usually, when I sell the job, I'll put the yard sign in there, get a really nice kind of before picture. So whatever we're doing, if it's roof, it's super impactful because usually it's a really old, dingy roof, and then obviously when we replace it, it's going to be bright and clean. I'll take it kind of from an angle, and I'll make sure the house is lined up perfectly, and then when I go back and we do after the cleanup, after all the materials are gone, I'll take a after photo from the exact same angle. So there's no doubt that it's before and after. You can see the difference all in one photo. And then one of the cool things that Company Cam does, it gives you, I've never really counted them, but I'm going to say probably 20 different templates to use.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's not, if you put it on online and you use it on like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, you're not going to have the same repeated look over and over and over again. So you can kind of mix it up and make it look fresh. That's one of my favorite things because it's a little bit, pat myself on the back. But when I take a good after photo with a good before photo, I'm like, man, that's kind of cool looking, and I'll usually put it as a backdrop on my computer so that when I'm talking to someone with a laptop and I'm showing them, they can literally see our work right there. But again, it's not to pat myself on the back, but when I take a good one, yeah, I have a little sense of pride. It's I
No,
don't think there's
yeah.
anything wrong with that.
No, those templates are all branded with our logo on it. And I mean, you and Keith take pride in what you do. It's part of the reason you guys are good at what you do. And so, yeah, there's a reason that feature is in Company Cam because they want us to be proud of the work we do.
I just actually thought of another feature, not to cut you off, but it
No,
is
good.
important.
Go ahead.
It's the reason I just thought of it is because we just started using it. We probably should have been using it for years, but I don't think anyone really knew it existed. The amount of times I go to someone's house and they'll ask, "Hey, have you done any other work like this?" Or I'm not sure what color roof I want. Do you have other stuff? Literally, the sales guy would have to think, oh, "Okay, I did that person about a year ago. What was their name?" And it sucked. I'm not gonna lie, it sucked.
Yeah.
But what we realized recently, and again, it was just sort of should have known all along, you can label photos and you can label projects. So if someone has a very popular shingle color is GAF, Timberline, HDZ, and charcoal. It's sort of like the darkest one that we have, nice black color. So when you have that, you can literally label John Smith's house, and he could be 60 miles away, and you can pull it and be like, yeah, this house is very similar shape to yours, and look at how his turned out. And I don't have to remember that name. I can go into Company Cam and type in charcoal, and there's a label for that, and pull up, probably a dozen or so houses that we just did. Like it's not even old stuff. So that's a really cool feature, and it really super helps when people pick a more obscure color. Because I'll remember charcoal. Like I said, it's a very popular color. Weatherwood, same thing, very popular color. But if someone picks, say, hunter green, that is far less common. Slate, another one's far less common. So if I can just type that in there and pull up a house that we've done, a lot of times that'll seal the deal because people are a little cautious as to what color they want, and looking at stock photos online doesn't really do a lot of justice. But if I can pull up that customer file and we've taken 800 photos, I can say, okay, well, we're definitely going to find one that has good lighting, and it's a huge benefit to be able to show them an actual home, an actual real life situation that looks like that. And they can see different color sidings, and obviously whatever we do is going to be labeled.
Yeah, as a marketing guy, I love nothing more than logging in the Company Cam and seeing a job that's been all tagged up or labeled up with all the different materials, manufacturers that have been used. So there's all sorts of applications for that feature. And obviously, picking a shingle color is not quite like picking paint for your living room wall, where you can easily repaint. Picking a shingle color's, a little more permanent, unless you are just made of money and want to replace your shingles.
Does happen.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for walking me through that. You've shared a lot of the benefits of Company Cam. I know it's not perfect. No software is, but it's a huge tool for our company. Could you share maybe just a brief story about when you first started using it, about how it helped you solve a problem or how it continues to help solve problems?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been here, last week was my 4-year anniversary.
Mhm.
So 4 years is a good amount of time. And I've certainly seen, I would say probably somewhere in 2,000 to 3,000 home range in that time. But there's times when I don't know what I'm looking at, because again, Aaron has 20 plus years of experience. He knows a lot more about this stuff than I probably ever will. When I was fresh, and when I say fresh, like within the first year, I'm still learning a lot, because it's kind of, it's not like you can learn how to play a board game, for instance. You just read the instructions and you know how to play it, and you just get better through experience. This is something where there's really no manual for everything that we do.
Yeah.
So you're going to find stuff that you just don't know. So there's part of a roof that happens more often than you'd think, but not as often. It's not on every house. It's called a pitch trough. And what I've found is a lot of times it happens when there's like a protrusion on the house, like a window or bay window or something sticks out on the second level, and then the garage roof comes into it. It's almost like a dead zone on the roof. So if you don't do that correctly, you're going to accumulate leaves and debris, and water is absolutely going to leak in there. Even if you perfectly waterproof everything, eventually the acids, I guess, and the rain are going to eat away at whatever you did. So it has to be done so that water can get out of there. So it's called a pitch trough. I had never seen one probably 3.5 years ago. I had no idea what was going on. So homeowner takes me into the house. They're like, look, I have this leak coming down my drywall, and we're a good 4 feet in from the outer wall. And I'm thinking, there's no way this is a roof leak. Because I saw how the house was when I pull up. It's usually on the front of the house. That's where all the accents are. So I'm like, there's no way this is a roof leak. And again, I'm not still doing this. This was 3.5 years ago. I was brand new, basically. So I'm like, this is really throwing me off. So I said, okay, tell you what, I'm going to measure here, get some good photos, again, in company cam. Let me head up on the roof and see what I can see. And there's no attic access for most of these because it's all drywall and it's sort of a dead zone. So I hop up on the roof and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, there's obviously leaves accumulating here. But I have a pitch where the water can sort of into a gully come down and out. So I said, I have no idea why this is leaking. And immediately I thought, okay, well, I know Aaron's at his desk. So let me take a photo. Let me send him, call him rather. And then he can look at it. So take a photo. I send it over. Like immediately he looks, he's like, oh, that's a pitch trough. It just needs to be redone. And it was so immediate. I felt like, really, it's that simple. Well, A, what's a pitch trough? And B, how do we fix it? And we have another app on our phone, is a pitch finder for a roof. So literally, it's almost like a level on my phone, like a carpenter's level. And I can twist my phone and it'll literally tell me the pitch of the roof. So he said, okay, give me a pitch of that trough. And I put it on there. It was like maybe a 212 or something really low. And he was like, yeah, it's just too low. So we'll have to build it up a little bit, get water flowing out of there easier. And he's like, it also should kind of extend past the siding a bit, which is what the real issue was. So he's like, yep, we'll fix it up. No problem. He made it sound like it was no big deal. And essentially what we do is you go in there, you pull some siding off, you pull some roofing off, you put in kind of a false piece of roof, lift the pitch up so it's a little steeper. That way when rain comes down in the future, it kind of makes it go around to the front to the gutter and gets out of there. But again, having that there, I would have had, if I didn't have company cam, would have to take photos, measurements, hopefully get everything he needs. Because again, I'm not in communication with him directly. And then come back and say, hey, can we sit down and look at my photos on a laptop, computer, whatever. And then hopefully he can walk me through it. And I can tell you when that's happened to me in the past, because maybe he wasn't available or I couldn't get a hold of him, whatever, maybe he's on his own appointment. There's always one photo I missed. It's like the law of the universe. He's like, oh, I really wish you'd have got that. And I'm like, really? One photo? I took 30 of them, but the one that I missed, it's just kind of how things happen. But having him there, having him look at that, being able to say, yep, get this, this, and this, should be good. We're going to need this, this, and this for materials, this much labor. Like I can literally quote on site and get them done almost immediately. So that's a huge benefit because especially an active leak, people don't want to wait. They don't want to say, okay, you'll get back to me in a couple of days because you don't really know what's going on. Okay, they're not okay with that most of the time. And I can understand that. I'm a homeowner. So when I can get that done immediately because of company cam, because of having that immediate interaction with someone who just knows more, huge benefit. And now, obviously, I know what a pitch trough is. So I don't call him as often for stuff like that. But there have been times when I'll find weird stuff. And it's something that shouldn't have been done. Like, everybody is a handyman. And the handyman's like, oh, I can take care of that. And he comes out and he just messes everything up. It's like, okay, this is obviously wrong. What do you think I should do here? And I usually just call Aaron and tell him this is what I'm seeing. And it goes pretty smooth. I not that handymen are bad, but maybe call a professional is all I'm saying. Somebody that knows a little bit more about the specific problem. It's definitely one of those things where it's been a huge benefit for things like that. And then also going back to what you said earlier, knowing where we're at, something else popped in my head. So if he knows where I'm at because of company cam, because again, I've taken a picture 30 seconds ago, and maybe Josh is on a job site, can't leave. Maybe he's an hour and a half away from some other job site, and maybe he can't go get something. Aaron can literally just pull it up without having to pull up the complicated GPS tracking on the van and all that. He can just pull up company cam and like, Brad's in Selbyville. Okay, Josh is up in Houston, so well, he won't be able to go to Selbyville, but Brad's right there, and he can run the Ace Hardware and pick up, a handful of this or that and take it to the job site. And we all help each other here. We don't have a ton of people that work here, so being able to help each other and kind of a lot of job overlap is a huge benefit, and it also, I think, makes us closer just as a unit.
Yeah, sure. Well, we only have a few minutes left. I know company cam is that one indispensable tool that you said you carry with you every day.
Yeah.
What are some of the other softwares that are part of your process that we use at Pro Exteriors? I'm thinking like Hover, Quick Measure. You mentioned job progress. You don't need to go in depth, but what is, like, for instance, what is Quick
Cut me
Measure?
off from getting on a tangent. I love it because that's where it's headed. So obviously, company cam is every job, every time, all the time. That's the tape measure. As far as I'm concerned, every job needs a tape measure. Every job needs company cam. So Hover, Quick Measure, and then occasionally Eagle View, which is another service. But mostly Hover. It's or not Hover. Mostly Quick Measure now. It's a service through GAF, which is our national backed roofing supplier. It measures the roof before you even get there. Now, they're not widespread in our whole area, so when we can get it, we absolutely do before we even show up. Speeds things up. Again, it's usually very accurate. It does it, I want to say, by either satellite or some sort of software that they have. Mm-hmm. But it measures all the roof for us. Now, if you have a complicated roof, it speeds it up like crazy. Because if it's overly complicated, I am not measuring by hand. I think that's kind of obvious. I'll be there all day. So we use that almost every time on a roof. If we can't use it on a roof, or say we need a siding and a roof, we use what's called Hover. And I literally just walk around the house, take a 360 of the house, and it's 8 different photos minimum. And then what they do as part of the Hover service is they digitize the house. One of the things I love about that for siding jobs is I can take their house, so this actual homeowner's home, and put different color sidings in it. So if someone's undecided as to what color, what style they want for siding, they can literally see their house in a digitized version. So that's a huge deal. And then, of course, Job Progress or Leap, that's our CRM. So, for instance, today I'm going to meet a woman that I did not see, I met 3.5, almost 4 years ago, like when I was brand new. She called up and she's finally ready to do something, but obviously we do a re-inspect, but I could pull her up and say, oh yeah, we have all your information. So they don't have to repeat it. Huge benefit for that. Also makes it so that when we have notes and we're like, I don't really remember this house, I can pull up Job Progress and look at the notes. So that's a huge benefit there. I'm trying to think what else we use. Like the pitch finder is a little one, but that's obviously it's a big deal because sometimes our digital measurements will say it's a 10-12. So it's a steep roof, which is something we need like harnesses and whatnot. I'll go out there and take a measurement. It's actually an 8-12 because you got to remember that if they're doing satellite, they're not right on the house.
Sure.
So it is off a little bit, and that helps from that because if it's an 8-12, then we don't necessarily need all the harnesses and everything. The guys just have to be careful. Technology wise, that's the big ones. The measurement software, company cam is huge, and then the Job Progress or Leap now that they bought Job Progress. But it's indispensable. We're not handwriting anything. I'm not scrawling on the back of a business card.
Part of the reason that we wanted to do an episode like this is because, and we've talked about it a little bit, like even when you and Keith were on talking about red flags that homeowners should look out for, is the industry has changed a lot. And I was shocked. I started with the company just back in late January of this year at how much technology plays into what we do. I mean, technology, equipment, things like the Equipter blew my mind when I first started with the company about it's not the old days of a roofer showing up with a tool belt, a hammer, a box of nails, and it's changed. And consumers have become wiser. We all have Google on our phones, and so as consumers, we've become more discerning, and so the industry has had to evolve because of that, largely too. Also, because we want our homeowners to know that when Brad or Keith or any of our guys show up at your house and they're walking around snapping pictures on their phone, it's part of a professional software that is used company-wide. Those photos aren't living on their photo roll and then getting lost in their vacation pictures or, nights out with friends or whatever. It's going to a professional database that's helping them to solve the problem that you called us to help solve. And I think that's important for the homeowner to understand that we all have smartphones. And so it's not unusual to see somebody walking around with a phone in their hand, but you guys are using something that is highly professional and helpful. And so I think it's important that we share that information.
I would say if you're, like you said, people expect roofers to show up with a hammer and nails, a tool belt, pickup truck and pull things out, carry them up the ladder. Like we've come so far since then that if your roofer is still doing that, there are other options. And in all honesty, it's better options. You're going to have somebody that's actually going to be there if, God forbid, something happens. You're covered by a more professional company. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You're just more professional in general. If you're not taking steps, no matter what your business is, to advance as far as technology goes, then you're going to get left behind. There's no business in this entire, as far as I'm concerned, the entire world that can't take advantage of technology in the way it's advancing.
Yeah.
You need it. And you, like you said, if it's in my camera roll and I have to sift through my Friday night photos for Friday morning's job on Monday, who wants to do that? Old school way of taking a digital camera with an SD card. And what happens if I lose that? What happens if the digital camera falls and it gets broken and I can't get it out? I mean,
yeah. Or the card corrupts or
exactly. Yeah. It's instant. And then when we have company cam, you don't have to worry about that. It's instant. Yep. I take a photo, and as long as I have good cell service, if I take a photo, it literally is instant. Eric can see it right away. He can also make notes for me on site. So if he can't talk, maybe he's on a web call or something, he can mark it up in like a red, different colors, whatever. And I can look at him like, oh, that's what he means. Okay, great. And it's super useful. So
yeah, I think the only other thing I would mention, and you touched on this before, is you can use technology just because it's available to you, or you can use it because it's actually helpful. But the other indicator, I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Aaron's not here, and so I want to talk about him behind his back for a second.
No way he's going to hear it. You're fine.
He invests in tools that make us better at what we do. And that's 100%. An indicator of the kind of company that we get to be a part of. And so it's just another indicator that we're going to be around, for the long haul. We aren't just in this for this year. We're not just barely scraping by. He has invested because he sees the return on that investment is huge, not only for the business, but also for the homeowner as well. So I appreciated that immediately when I saw that he is willing to get the tools necessary, whether it's the physical hand tools or power tools, but also the software and technology tools that we all maybe we don't need, but help make us better at what we do. And so I've appreciated that.
Absolutely.
So, well, Brad, thank you as our resident company cam expert. Thank you for jumping in today on your birthday. Happy birthday again to you.
Thank you.
Let me wrap this thing up, and then we'll get on with our day. Hey, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. We want to ask a favor of you. Would you please help get the word out about the show? The best way for you to do that is to rate it on Apple Podcast, or if you are watching or listening on YouTube, would you please like and subscribe to the channel? It just helps get the word out, helps grow the audience. Ultimately, our goal with this show is to make you a more informed consumer. Before we go, we also want to hear from you. This show does not exist without your questions. Would you send us any questions that you might have around the topic of exterior remodeling? You can send those questions to info@askproexteriors.com. And then in the subject line, simply put, You Ask. We would love to include those questions in future episodes. Finally, if you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode has empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. As always, until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com.